You see, in many ways, Moana's story is a terrific analogy for what the life of a Christian is supposed to look like. Chosen by the ocean, Moana is given a responsibility that she feels ill-equipped for. However, the ocean guides her every step of the way, putting the right people in her path and occasionally stepping in directly to assist her. By the end of the film, Moana's been a part of the ocean's plan to restore the heart of a lost soul. And in the process, Moana has learned who she really is. And that's just talking broad strokes. There's so much to unpack as we delve into that question I asked earlier. Did God really choose you? And if he did, why? Moana may just be a movie made by flawed people, which is why we're gonna be looking at God's word to help us answer these questions. And along the way, we'll be looking for the ways that Moana resembles some of these truths.
Why does God need you? You've all likely heard the phrase, if you want it done right, do it yourself. In the same way, maybe you've wondered the same about God. Why can't God just go and save the people himself? I mean, he can do it. He's better at it than we are, so why doesn't he just do it? Why does he really need our help? If you've seen the entire film, we never get to see Moana have this moment. The moment where she comes to this big conclusion, either audibly or in her head, where she says, now this is the moment why I was specifically chosen. And most of us don't get a clear-cut answer on the why me either. We know God has a plan. We know he has a reason, but it can be hard to continue to trust him in the midst of a storm. Moana speaks directly to the ocean and says, I'm not the right person. You have to choose somebody else. Back when I was in grade 6 in gym class, we were all outside and we were lined up right against the outer circle of the baseball diamond. And we were about to play a game probably most of you have played, soccer baseball. And the teacher is standing there and says, now I'm gonna choose 2 team captains. And in those moments, I always cringe and go, please not me, please not me, please not me. Sports is not my thing, remotely. Anyways. So the teacher goes, Jenna, you're gonna be one of the team captains. And I start to walk forward to stand and face the whole class in front of me. And as I am walking there and I turn around to face them, I utter the words to myself, please choose someone else. Oftentimes, we only want to be chosen when we're confident in what we're being chosen for and chosen to do. But God chooses us because he deems we are a good pick. This probably sounds familiar to Moses' story when he gets called by God at the burning bush. Moses said, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? In this one conversation that Moses has with God here, Moses tries 5 different ways begging to get out of the job God is asking him to do. And for parents in the room, you likely face this maybe daily, when your kids are begging you and bargaining with you on, please, if I do this, don't make me do that job. And that's exactly what Moses is doing here. He is begging, Lord, please send somebody else. All I wanted was for my gym teacher to see me and how panicked I was in my face and give me a break and pick another leader. But she didn't. I was chosen and I didn't get out of the job that I was being asked to do. Moses, Jonah, and Balaam are all biblical characters in the Bible who actually don't get out of the job that God's asking them to do. But here's the thing about God. At the end of the day, he often allows us to choose. For example, Jesus let Judas betray him. Or in the parable of the prodigal son, the father let his son run away with the inheritance. Or in Adam and Eve's case, God let them choose there as well. And in Moana's case, the ocean allowed Moana a choice here too. So then if God has a plan, why doesn't he force you to do it? Because ultimately, he doesn't need you, he wants you. It was one summer during youth camp at Lakeshore, and the service had ended with an altar call. And I remained in my pew, and I remember a couple rows up from me, there was a girl there. I didn't know her. And I had this really strong feeling that I should go and pray with her. And I sat there alone and I wrestled through the, am I or am I not going to? The thoughts crossed my head of, hey, if she wanted prayer, she would have gone to the altar. Or she doesn't know me. She can ask a friend to pray with her. What's my prayer really gonna do for this girl anyway? So I finally decided and said, you know what? No, I'm not gonna do it. And seconds after making my decision, I see another girl come right into the pew, sit directly beside her, and pray for her. And I remember that moment specifically for this reason, that God isn't the one who misses out. We are. His plan will continue to move forward. God chooses us, but ultimately, it's our choice. And although I might have been relieved that I didn't have to go and awkwardly ask this girl who I didn't know to pray for her, part of me felt that I missed out. I don't want us to miss out on God's calling over our lives because He knows just how good His plan is for us. Moana has many chances to no longer walk in the calling that the ocean has given her. And in a brief moment, she has that moment that we just saw where she goes, she's debating it. She doesn't know if she can do it, but she decides to and she keeps going. So far we've established that we've been chosen because we're part of God's family. Secondly, we've been chosen with the freedom to choose Him back. We get to choose to walk in His calling, which leaves us with this question: what are you going to choose? Moana is clear on the task that she needs to complete. She needs to find Maui, and she's guided by the ocean to find him. And what you notice is that the ocean doesn't make it easy for Moana. When she asks the ocean for help, as you just saw, a storm hits. Her response holds so much frustration. What? I said, help me. You know the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And when they prayed asking God for help, I think they likely imagined avoiding being thrown into the fiery furnace. But yet they do get thrown in, but God still helps them. But probably not in the way they imagined their help to look like. The ocean has led Moana to exactly where she needs to be. She's been shipwrecked on the island where Maui actually is. She's been looking for him. She just doesn't know it yet. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and Moana all have this similar moment of, hey, this is not what I had in mind. God doesn't normally tell us the ending. And when you're facing a storm, the journey rarely feels worth it. But that's only because you haven't arrived at the end yet. Philippians 1:6 says, he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. Many think that once they become a Christian, it's smooth sailing here on out. No more bad days. But for most of us, we know that's far from the truth. We all will encounter storms, but the storm will not last forever. We know who has called us. We know who goes before us, but ultimately, we're left with the freedom to choose when He says to us, follow me. But if being a Christian doesn't get rid of all the storms in my life, then why should I choose it?
The coolest part of this movie is undoubtedly Moana's confrontation with the dark version of Fidi. Obviously, it's cool watching Moana walk slow motion as the water parts before her to meet a giant fire monster, for sure. But there's more to it than that. As Moana walks, she sings these words: I have crossed the horizon to find you. I know your name. They have stolen the heart from inside you, but this doesn't define you. This is not who you are. You know who you are. First of all, wow, I don't know about you, but that feels like something that God would say to us, doesn't it? Moana sees past the hurt and the pain that Te Fiti is experiencing and sees her true identity within. It's a declaration that Te Fiti is more than the sum of her pain. Te Fiti's identity is deeper than that. And I love how Moana affirms that by saying, you know who you are. Our pain can sometimes make us forget who we are. We can become so hurt by the world that the pain actually replaces our identity. But who you are really cannot go away. Just as the father in the story of the prodigal son says that his son was dead but now lives, Moana says they have stolen the heart from inside you, but this does not define you. So Moana has just restored the heart of Te Fiti, and that's great. But here's where it gets even cooler. This moment is the moment that the entire film has been building up towards, right? It's the task that the ocean has given Moana years ago when she was just a child. And remember that beautiful song that was sung when Moana first received the heart? It's back. As Moana sings to Te Fiti, the song that she heard as an infant echoes behind her. It's the exact same song for both scenes, but Moana is singing along this time. It's as if this was a song that was meant for Te Fiti the whole time. But the ocean has chosen Moana to send that message on its behalf. Maybe the ocean knew that Moana was the kind of person that Te Fiti would listen to. We all have people like that who we give permission to speak into our lives, and I think God knows that and takes advantage of that. It's as if Moana is the hands and feet of the ocean, calling Te Fiti back to her true self. This whole quest has been a ton of work for Moana, but maybe the reason the ocean chose Moana was because in choosing not to do this thing itself, it helped not one, not two, but three different people realize who they really were. Te Fiti had her heart restored, Maui found new purpose, and Moana saved her family and took them back to their roots of being voyagers. This is what blows my mind. Maybe God has given you the responsibilities that you have for your sake, just as much as for the sake of the people that he's placed under your care. Maybe there's a Te Fiti or a Maui in your life that God wants you to talk to, a song that he's given you that they don't know how to hear yet. But that song is for you just as much as it is for them. We said we'd be coming back to that song, remember? The song is written in Tokelauan, which is a language today spoken by only a few thousand people on earth. The lyrics of that song that plays in both moments of Moana's life are this when you translate them. Your eyes so full of wonder, your heart an innocent warrior. There's a task for you, my dearest one. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, and God has commanded you to be strong and courageous. And he's done this so that you can complete a task, to go into all the world and tell people about him. When we live a life according to God's purpose, that doesn't lead to a life of misery and despair. It's a life of fulfillment. Remember how Moana, she wanted to see the world, but the ocean wouldn't let her leave? It's because if she had left with her desire as her compass, she would have been destroyed. But once Moana leaves to accomplish the task that the ocean has set before her, she actually achieves the desire of her heart, to be a voyager. And more than that, she saves her people, makes new friends, and finds a future that would not have been possible any other way. Guys, if we're only Christians because of what's to come after this life, we are missing one of the greatest joys of our life here and now. God chose you because you're part of his family, and he chose you to be free. But when we choose him, when we follow him, even in the midst of storms that we don't totally understand, we find ourselves living a life that is fulfilled. Following God's path, as mysterious and frustrating as it can be, will prove itself to be worth it long before your heart stops beating. In Psalm 16:11, the psalmist writes, "You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy, and at your right hand are pleasures forevermore." My plans for my life are nothing compared to what God has in store for me. It's just that living a life where we accept that we're chosen by God can be really hard sometimes, because it means not getting to hold the roadmap. It means walking into storms when we don't exactly know how we're gonna get out. But when we take hold of the plan that God has for us, the reward is self-evident. It's purpose amidst the pain. It's power amidst persecution. It's peace in the middle of a pandemic. When God is the wind in your sails, the destination may not be what you expect, but it is always where you were meant to go. You are a chosen child of the universe, of the God of the universe. And you have the freedom to be part of the most fulfilling journey you could ever imagine. That is a privilege and an opportunity that we cannot overstate. My prayer for all of us is that we will not forget it, even when the storms come. I pray that the joy of the Lord will be your strength, and that you will follow his path despite not knowing where you're being led. We may not know where we are headed, but we know the way. He's the way.